Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Steel City Underground WTF podcast. My name is Terry Fletcher. This week, we are in week 3. I apologize for my delay. This is all on me. I'm losing track of days, I think. And so we posted a little bit late this week, but we have a lot to cover from last week before we get the preview of what's going on this week. So WTF is What the Football, as you know, and we try to bring you this weekly podcast every week on just some of the happenings around the NFL. Yes, we do focus on Steelers, but we also try to give you what is going on in other games. So let's start with Thursday night football, and it was between Miami and Jacksonville. And I don't know about you, but for me, the WTF moment is just stop calling Fitzmagic. I'm just so sick of it. I hear it on the radio. I hear it on the TV. Okay, yes, he won 31-13 after being 0-2, both teams. So now Miami is 1-2. But just stop, okay? And it's funny to me, this is just funny, because him and Ben are the same age, but they treat him like he is 150 years old. And so they call him a journeyman. Because he's been on every single team, I think. And it's just funny to me when I see him play with that beard. And he's just out there because they're going to play him regardless how they're doing. So I will be really surprised when they finally put Tua in there to get some reps. But anyway, it was just the Thursday night games are always like a token game in my opinion. And it just is interesting when they just don't have a game that everybody wants to tune into. So I just tune in because it's football, man. I'm just so happy to get football. So let's start with the Steelers this week. I think I ended with them last week. So I really appreciated Juju this week again. He flipped for a first down. I love when he does that. Him and his extra yards after the catch are just amazing. He is really doing everything he can to muscle through, to be aware of what's going on around him. But when he did that flip to get that first down in that first quarter, I loved it. But here's my WTF. Why are we giving Samuels the ball on third down? Why? The play calling in that game, there are days when I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? And Deontay Johnson, okay, so he really reminds me of a player that we had who I actually thought had so much potential. And he's no longer playing because of whatever issues he has. But do you remember Martavis Bryant? I just thought he was great. He was a muscly guy. He was very strong, and he had a ton of speed. But he had some butterfingers, and he made some bad decisions. Well, Deontay Johnson reminds me of him. He's got speed. He knows how to weave in and out after he catches the ball. But he doesn't have a good mind for football right now. And I don't know if it's the rookie thing, even though he's kind of not a rookie because he was around last year. But why are you catching a fair catch at the 4-yard line? Why? And then also his peripheral vision when he catches the ball back there. So I'm not excited about having him back there. And I'm actually starting to really appreciate our new Ray McLeod. What he brings to the table to this team is huge. And when you can get the ball out over the 30 to 35 yard line on a kickoff, you're helping not only the offense, but the defense. You help the punter flip the field, pins them back, field position, and that is just huge, not only for our offense, but also for our defense. So I hope that's his new job, because he really does just such a great job back there. We also seem to have a WTF moment on the field where in the first half, we took a timeout right after a commercial timeout because there was some confusion on the field. We need to clean that up. There needs to be none of that because let's face it, we're not playing, I should say, hard teams right now, and we need to really focus now on what we're doing on the field and just keep that stellar focus because we've got some tough games coming up. Now, the refs, I know I say it every week that they suck, but oh my gosh. Claypool trying to catch a ball, getting mugged trying to catch a ball with one hand. He could not get the other hand around it because they were mugging him. WTF refs and no call. It just really drives me crazy when they're right there. They're looking at this happen and they're like, oh wow, he didn't catch the ball. And nothing, no flag, no nothing. So it really just drives me crazy. Yes, you probably heard me yelling. Now, here's one for Ben, and this is a positive and negative one. So Ben did see that he had an opportunity to rush, and he reached out and he rushes and he reaches out for a first down, and they don't give it to him. We challenge it because clearly it's a first down. I have gone back and watched that play 4 times, and he was right there. He reached out, got the first down, and we didn't get it. And I just think that was such an egregious non-give, and I can't believe not only did we lose a timeout and a challenge, but to not even realize that he got that first down, just, WTF more than you can possibly imagine. And then on 14, and then we were 14-3 up, second quarter. Ben does an underround with Deontay Johnson, and Ben throws a great block to get us inside the 5. We appreciate Ben when you do that, and I remember back in the day, he did that to save a game against the Colts. But hey, big dog, settle down there. We don't need you you're at 38, putting those blocks on there very often. So we appreciate your effort, but let's settle down there. We need our blockers to do their job. But the one thing too, when it comes to this game, they called it the Watt brothers game, and it was. We had, history was made. First time we've had 3 brothers on the field. Well, we had one 2 years ago, and then before that, it was like 90 years or something, they said. And so just to be able to have TJ and JJ and then also Derek on the field all at the same time, that was great just to see that. One of the things, I don't know if you heard on the after or if you heard the mic'd up this week, you need to go back and listen to Steelers game mic'd up, and it was actually JJ Watt who was mic'd up, and he was listening and sitting there on the sideline. And he was sitting next to a player, and they're both sitting there, and he goes, and he's looking around at the Steelers Stadium at Heinz Field, and the camera flashes and all the yellow seats, and you look around, and he's like, what's wrong? He goes, it's so quiet. This is so weird. And then they look up, and he goes, listen. And they both look up. He goes, you can hear the Goodyear blimp. You can hear the motor. You can hear it flying over. And it was really funny. It was just a funny moment because that really gives you an understanding of what the players are dealing with right now when they walk into these fields where certain states aren't open or allowing any kind of fans in the seats. And so it's crazy. The fact that you can actually hear the Goodyear blimp's motor sitting on the sideline, yeah, that's not good. That means you're hearing everything on the field, and that definitely is going to change a game for sure. I think what I want to know is, did they play Renegade at any point? Nobody really mentioned it. I would have loved to heard that in an empty stadium because that gets the fans going. That would have been really kind of interesting. But we ended up winning 28-21, and I don't know if you noticed the last 2 weeks, and I bring up fantasy football a lot, and I have 3 leagues that I'm in, and in 2 of my leagues, I've got 6 Steeler players because we also pick defensive players. And on the other one, I've got 7. And then in my 3rd league, I've got 4 because we don't pick defensive players. So I have the Steelers defense. But what's interesting in all this is the fact that we get down to two games in a row. We get down to inside the 5-yard line. But because we won the game and because we've only got 2 minutes left, and we can just run out the clock, we do. And I'm like, no, I need Connor, or I need Juju, or I need Ben. Anybody, please score me something. Please, just score me some points. And they don't. And so it definitely makes me sad when they get down there and they just go, oh, we'll just take a knee. We've won. I get it. You don't want to give an opportunity for anybody to fumble and the ball to go the other way. But in a fantasy situation, it tears me up. I'm just saying that's a total WTF for me, and I get up and jump around and whine about it. So Atlanta, let's go to the next game. I'd be really surprised if their coach can even last through the end of the season. Atlanta 26-10 with 6.5 minutes left. Again, lose the game in the 4th quarter. Passing, no run game at all. There's an INT at the end and missed passes by, Matt Ryan. And Mitch Trubisky was benched for Nick Foles. You remember the old Philadelphia Super Bowl winning quarterback, Super Bowl MVP? So he was benched, Trubisky, and Foles went in for the win, 30-26. They had no answer for them. So you've got 6 minutes left in the game, and you're up 26-10. And you can't save your game, you again lose. I don't know what's going to happen there. That is going to be such a nightmare. for that coach. And it'd be interesting to see how that actually plays out. So we had a tie this week, definitely a WTF moment. The tie in overtime between Cincy and Philly, and let's just face it, they're both terrible. So the 23-23, I don't think we're going to have too much trouble getting in when we get to Philly, but we get, and you've heard that word, trap games. I hate that word. Unfortunately, it does sometimes apply to the Steelers. I remember a game not too far back against Philly where we were winning, and all of a sudden we play them and we lose our butts there. So let's hope that doesn't happen in 2 weeks. But yeah, we had a tie in overtime. And Joe Burrow, bless his heart, he's just doing the best he can, and he's just got no help. That dropped balls. He's actually doing a good job if you watch him play. But he just when you get picked number 1 overall, you go to a pretty crappy team, and let's face it, you get what you pay for. Now the Bills 35-32. I know everybody is seriously just ready to anoint the Bills as the best team in the AFC. Next to the Chiefs. And, people, 35-32 means you allowed 32 points. WTF. So the defense, there's no defense there. Now, we're going to have to play them, so I have to say I'm not too upset about that. But you're going to have to figure out something to, make that a little better. But, Josh Allen's doing a great job. Now, the 49ers, we know the Garoppolo is out for a while because he got hurt. So they put in Nick Mullins. And over the Giants, they won, and again, 36-9. So the Giants are 0-3, and Barkley's out. But they didn't even hardly use him when he was in anyway. But 36-9 with a backup quarterback for the 49ers that they won over the Giants. So that team, I don't know, they're going to have a fire sale soon, I'm sure. Now, 36-20, the Patriots, Cam Newton over the Raiders. And we just found out the NFL flexed the Patriots versus Broncos game. Why would you do that? So, the Broncos, nobody cares about that. Now, I understand everybody's getting excited about the Patriots. Believe me, I think Cam Newton's was such a steal for them. But I just don't understand why you'd flex that game. That was just a weird thing to me. And then the Titans. So, we're supposed to, again, play them. I'll get to that in a minute. The Titans, 31-30 over the Vikings. And that came down to the last second. And Cousins, the $85 million man, guaranteed. All they needed was about 10 yards for a game-winning field goal with 104 seconds left. WTF, people. And he threw it away twice, lost 16 yards on a sack. You don't take a sack there. And then a long pass for an interception, and then for a Titans win. Zimmer and Cousins clearly not on the same page in what they're doing. And I don't know what's going with that team. I think they should just trade off players and talk to Atlanta, but talk about just a nightmare over there. So let's finish up with Monday Night Football, Chiefs-Ravens game. Okay, so we were waiting for that as Steeler fans for sure. Everybody on ESPN, all the analysts, they call themselves, which to me they're just talking heads, they took the Ravens to win, all of them. They said, Lamar Jackson, the MVP. They just didn't understand who Patrick Mahomes is. You guys call yourself analysts? Have you not watched tape or film on Pat Mahomes? Oh, excuse me. His mom got mad during the game. He is not Pat. He is Patrick. Let's make sure we know that. I thought that was hilarious for a mom. I get that. But this kid's ridiculous. He has a football mind and his ability to run. He has that. But he reads defenses very well. He knows how to pivot when he needs to, and along with executing plays that are put in. And also, don't forget, and I'm going to remind people this all the time because there's a word I like to use sometimes. It's called stupids, plural. And when I think of the Bears, and especially with what they're going through right now, that they passed over Mahomes for Trubisky in the draft, it just boggles my mind if you've watched any kind of film on this kid. Jackson is a good football player. Don't get me wrong. He earned his MVP last year. But, and it's a big but here, when he's against that kind of team, and that kind of just play calling. And he also has to deal with what other quarterback he's playing against. He looks confused. He looks very one note. And with not a lot of options except to run in his head. I'm not saying he doesn't have him on the field. I'm just saying he looks like that in his head. He reminds me a lot. I can't believe I'm bringing up this quarterback, but he reminds me a lot of Colin Kaepernick. Great running quarterback as far as that goes. He's got a decent arm. Kaepernick had a bullet arm. but would overthrow because he would actually throw too hard and didn't understand, or I guess grasp, who was in front of him. But they're very similar players with that, run pass option thing. But you have to also have other, tools in your chest. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to win games of good teams. So if the Steelers come to play with their A defense, sometimes they get a little bit complacent, then I would think we can beat the Ravens. That's kind of what I'm thinking as I really look at this team and look at that game. Now, here's a huge WTF for any of you that are playing fantasy or gambling on games. I do a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, but I got to win $80 because the over on this game, we knew it was going to be high scoring, and they have the bookmakers had it at 54.5 for the over, which is the total points of the game. And I would say 90% of people probably took the over. That's what they were saying in the paper and online. Well, I took the under. I thought, I think it's going to be high scoring, but I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. Well, guess how many points they scored? 54. I was holding my breath because I had a 3-team parlay, Steelers to win, Chiefs to win, and the under, and I won by 0.5 point. So, yay me. Now, let's look forward to, oh my goodness, what we're dealing with in week 4. I always like to talk about that, but we have probably the biggest WTF out there. We all got alerts, which actually I'm kind of glad that I'm recording this a little bit later because the Titans-Steeler game, Captain COVID hit the Titans this week, 4 players and 4 personnel, so they can't practice or do anything until Saturday testing. So our game, what they call it is PPD, postponed, to either Monday or Tuesday because they don't know. And so that would, their Titans are saying, well, that gives the Steelers an unfair advantage. Well, apparently, somebody's being a little bit more responsible on the Pittsburgh side. I realize that football players are not in a bubble, but, you hear Ben Roethlisberger talk about it on when they ask him in his interview this week, and he says, we are homeschooling our kids. We are limiting what family members come to the house. We are making sure we're not going out to dinner, doing anything really public because we have to be responsible for not only ourselves, but the entire team. And this is what players have to do. You're $1 million players. And so when you don't know, some teams, I know in Seattle, they had a rookie try to sneak somebody in. I know a couple rookies on some other teams, which I won't name, but they were pretty bad where they went out and had yacht parties, because they signed with their team. And you shouldn't be doing that right now. So what's happening is that we are postponed either to Monday or Tuesday. Let's hope they do a double header Monday because I don't want to miss that would be terrible to have to choose a game. But the problem is, and here's a WTF for many reasons. First of all, what happens on Saturday if they end up testing, anybody else tests positive, or a couple players still are testing positive? Well, I don't want to be forced into a bye week 4. We aren't that beat up, and buys really help teams that need a break. And, again, we can practice, they can't. But now on a short week heading into Philly, that also, gives me pause because, again, we didn't bring it on ourselves. And I realized that this was going to happen to somebody. We didn't know when, but I saw also a tweet from somebody saying, well, the Steelers should know better. People, read what you're looking at. We did not do anything. We meaning the Steelers. The Steelers have been very focused. We're testing negative, so it's not the Steelers. It is the Titans area that is dealing with this. But I thought this is why they expanded the rosters, expanded the practice squads. You got 3 or 4 players out, you put them on the COVID IR, and you pull up 3 or 4 more players. Now, I realize there's still a facility issue that they have to do the cleaning and make sure that, there's no issues there. But come on. This just makes, sounds really unprepared. And they've had all this time to prepare for something like this. Did they really think we were going to go the whole season without somebody in some league, in some area, having a positive test? Now, they also do the rapid tests in the NFL. So that's why they do them often. And so some of those tests have been very sensitive. And I know they're hoping for maybe a false positive. And so far, nobody has symptoms. It's just positive tests. So we'll see what happens there. But here's something, and I'll end it with my fantasy. And because I know that people hate this sometimes when it's like, I just want the team to win. I'm all in Steelers. I could have a completely crappy week on my fantasy and be bummed about it. But if we win, I don't care. but I do play. So I always like to bring up this because I know some of you have been very kind in some of your comments to me and saying, I know I play too. Oh my gosh, that happened to me. But if we play Monday, and my fantasy football is on Yahoo. If we play Monday, it counts. If we play Tuesday, it doesn't. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So we are in limbo as well on fantasy football. I had to go and try to make a last minute ditch effort to move things around. But that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. So for those of you, make sure you're looking before you pick your players so you know what's going on. Anyway, everyone, let's hope we do play this week. I hope it's Monday. And I have no question in my mind that we'll win that game. So I really believe that this is going to be a winning game for us. So let's hope so. But until next week, everyone, make it a great day. And thank you for listening to the WTF Steel City Underground podcast.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.